recently asked me about my two-wheel drive conversion while I was in Colorado, so I figured I'd just make a pretty quick video about that and sort of how I did it. While I was in Colorado, in Silverton, I hit Poughkeepsie Gulch, and there was an obstacle there where the only path forward, since I don't have A-track, was to give it a lot of throttle. One of my wheels kept spinning, and as soon as it hit the ground, the spider gears in my front diff exploded. So I had to make an on-trail two-wheel drive conversion. The route that I chose to go was by removing the I removed the flange. Then I used Ben 3D Build's plastic covers and removed the front drive shaft and locked the center diff. That way the hub was not attached to the CV axle, so it wouldn't turn the front diff, and the front diff was disconnected from the transfer case. So all I had to do was lock the center diff, the transfer case, and that sent power to the rear indefinitely. So pretty simple, but when I got home, I changed the setup and used some, I call them half axles, but I essentially just chopped the CV axle in half so that I could actually seal the hub, because in using the plastic 3D Build, covers, there's no snap ring holding the CV axle all the way into the hub, so it just sort of sits there, but it has, like, it'll slide out of the back of the hub a good inch and a half, which means mud, rocks, crap, water will get into the back of the hub. And I just replaced my wheel bearings, so I wanted to protect those as much as I could, even for street travel. So I'll show you that in a minute, but basically if you want to make that conversion, you can do it without even removing the drive flange, which is pretty cool. So you just pop off the dust cap, replace the CV axle with half axles, remove the front drive shaft, and lock the center diff. So just an alternative option. Back here I've got those, these are the plastic caps that I was talking about. So you just remove the drive flange so that it's not connecting the hub to the CV axle, and once that's done, you just slap on the plastic cover to protect at least the front of the hub. But that didn't satisfy me because the back could still slide in and out. I will mention that Ben has stopped making parts, I think, for now. His wife has cancer, and so they're fighting that together. But because of that, these have become more rare. If you don't have a set or can't buy them or whatever, one option is to take a set of old flanges and mill the teeth out of it. I started to do this with like a tool, but I decided I wasn't going to get it perfect, so I just borrowed these from Enrique. Thanks, Enrique. I'll give you these back in a minute. But yeah, so that's one option if you don't have access to these. But let me show you those axles. Here's a quick look at some of the diff bushings. There are 3 basic components that attach to your front differential, and 3 bushings that stop some of that rattling from the drivetrain. And these have not been replaced. You can actually see through some of them. They're so cracked. Yeah. There's one on the face plate, which is aluminum, for the front diff itself. And you can actually buy this whole face plate from Toyota for like 120 bucks. So a lot of guys go that route rather than pressing in a new one. But you can also replace just the bushing itself, and it's the same with these guys. I replaced that bushing with a polyurethane, so that I won't have to worry about it for, well, ever. And then there's a third bushing, which this holds up the rear, and it attaches to the back of the case here. So this guy goes onto the, I think this is like the, I mean, I don't know what it's called, but basically the CV axle comes into this side on the driver's side of the vehicle, bolts up here, and supports the diff. And then this is for the front. So 3 bushings, not difficult. If you have a press, you can do this at home. So regardless of what option you choose, you will have to remove the front drive shaft, which is just 4 14mm nuts, and then 4 14mm nuts and bolts. So 8 nuts, 4 bolts, and those are just, you know, underneath the front there. But you just kind of pop that off and you should be good to go. But basically, these are my, I guess you could call them an invention of sorts. Still greased up. This is the inboard shaft, which goes into the differential on the sides here and here. So I took 2 old CV axles. You see this one is extremely rusty, and I just chopped off the middle section, then plugged this into the blown diff on this side, and plugged this into the back of the hub. Then I could use a circlip, the little, you know, the C-clip for the flange on the outside of the hub, and the back of the hub was sealed off because I had this being pulled all the way through it, so it was stuck in tension there. This piece rotates, but it's not connected to like the rest of the axle, since there was no axle, if that makes any sense. But that was my solution. So I had 2 of each of these, 1 on each side, so that I could run in 2-wheel drive and still go through water, or, you know, just drive it around in the city and do normal truck things. So that's my solution there. But regardless, you'll have to take out the front drive shaft and lock the center diff. Let's see. I think right there, yeah, so there's part of the CV axle that I cut up and did all that with. But for those who are curious, by now I've actually wired up a front locker. So I used an 80 series switch, and you just, you know, press it in, turn it over. Pretty cool. But lock your center diff and you're in 2-wheel drive.